Good time.
Hey Mo,
Hey, Ricki.
the doctor is in.
We are, and we're talking about the backstory, the backstory, the backstory, the backstory, the backstory, and her story.
Her story of my family. Isn't this
I love
crazy?
it. I love it.
So
But it's great to have so many generations, though, to be able to talk about and get the backstory because we don't always know.
we don't. We
And
don't.
even this story goes back maybe two generations, but it may not be going back far enough because we don't know where it started. Uh,
Right.
my
Yep. So this is my mom, Wilma,
right.
and my two daughters, who you've seen Amanda before, and you know Haley. So here we go. We're going to tell our story because we had an interesting year, right? We've been doing this for like a year, right? When did you start? So I'll just start by saying Amanda, who's 38, and she has my three grandbabies. And they're three, almost five and almost seven. Wow. She just recently had a prophylactic mastectomy. So,
Wow.
and she made the decision to be a girl boss and get rid of her boobs.
How are
So
you feeling? How are you doing, first of all?
I feel great, honestly. I feel like I've now taken on a new extra role in my life and coaching a lot of other Black women through this process. It literally was just texting with a friend who had the surgery a week, not, she's like a friend through a friend who now is a real life friend, but she had the surgery last Tuesday. And so I texted her like an hour ago to say, you're halfway through the drains. It's almost over. That's the worst part. And she just texted me back to say, like, how long do I have to keep them in? But it's good. I feel like honestly, the only regret that I have is maybe I should have gotten bigger boobs.
yeah,
Like
Awesome.
for you, it's a big deal that's your like that's great. Like that's what a great
Yeah.
problem to have.
I was
Yeah,
just
I
gonna say
have
if that's the only regret.
this
Yeah.
very awkward interaction actually with my boss, like my like big boss. And it was like the first time I saw him after the surgery, and he was just like, how are you doing? Like, so like really happy and like proud of you, whatever. And I was so awkward. I was like, honestly, if my only regret is like I should have gotten bigger boobs, and like I'm doing pretty well. Like, oh God, like did that really just
Good
come out of
job.
my mouth? But it did.
Mm-hmm.
you're a big,
We've
big
never
boss.
been a big boobs family, so it's
I know, but I think because I was also like literally for years of my life, I prayed for boobs, and I would like do this every night, like I like,
We all did. We were
yeah,
all
like I was like, you must increase it. Like I just like wished for boobs for so many years that I was like, woke up being like, oh, it was my shot. I didn't go through with it.
all the Taibo videos.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. But I really liked my doctor, and I told him that I wanted to look natural, and he made me look natural. So I can't complain.
Yeah.
wow.
Wow.
That is not everybody's story, but
So
it's so amazing to see you so empowered and doing so well. And I think it's a narrative that we don't hear enough of. It's not to sugarcoat anything, but I tell patients all the time, this isn't my grandmother's. It's not your grandmother's cancer. I watched my grandmother spend a week in the hospital with huge scars, and she had
Totally.
mobility issues and lymphedema and all these things. And yeah, she had cancer, but even for the prophylactic patients, it's still hopefully not as bad as you think, right? You make it in your head to be like this huge
Totally.
thing, and everybody's journey is different. But in general, things are the medications, the pain medicine, the numbing that we use, even intraoperatively, like all the stuff that we do is hopefully giving people a better experience.
I know, Dr. Mo, what is the drug? It starts with an S that it like helps you wake up from the surgery.
It helps you wake up from the surgery.
Yeah, it was like I'll look it up while we're chatting, but
Okay.
I feel like I like literally woke up. Like I remember they like wheeled me into a room. I was sitting up in a chair. I was groggy, and then they're like, "Do you need anything?" And sort of like, really heavily encouraging me to like drink a liquid or eat Jello. And so I was like, "I'll take the Jello." So I ate the Jello and I went back to sleep for another hour. And then when I woke up, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home.
Such a different experience than when I had. When I
Yeah.
woke up from my mastectomy, I literally tried to sit up and I felt like a truck had driven through my body, backed up and driven through my body again. I had never felt pain like that in my life. And I remember thinking, WTF, what
Right.
just happened?
And I
And
had
they were all in the
zero
room.
pain,
Mhm.
zero pain.
Yeah.
Like I like took the they gave me tramadol and I took that for the first 2 nights only because I was afraid of feeling pain. And then I just like needed Advil for a week.
We use long acting bupivacaine, like the long acting lidocaine. You know, you go to the dentist, they give you the lidocaine for the pain. Long acting,
Yeah.
it lasts 3 days now. We use a whole complex of enhanced recovery protocols, what they call it. But you know, Ricki, to your point, I mean, I look at Sarah Sidner, for example. You know, she's having a really tough time after her recovery. She's walking at least a mile or two a day, and she's, you know, cataloging and what do they call it, vlogging her entire journey. And she's feeling pretty she's feeling it, you know, so everybody's journey is different.
I know. I also had a lot of lymph nodes taken out. You know, I had when I had
Right.
cancer surgery, it was different, but
Right.
I was out of commission for a good month and I was
Mhm.
taking all that stuff and, you know, all the drugs. It was bad, but I'm so glad Amanda didn't,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
was like, my mom came, she moved in for a week, and after a week, she was like, you're good. I'm going back on the road. I got other people to
See ya.
fix. Yeah. I was like,
See you,
So how did
bye.
we get here? What's the
I know. How did you get
backstory
here?
then?
What happened a
Right.
year ago, Amanda? Like, think about.
yeah, I mean, for me, I saw like I'm 38, I have 3 young kids, and I like know what I do know about our family history. So I know it's something that I need to take extra, you know, precaution with, and felt like I had a bunch of doctors sort of ignoring me for like the 3 years before that, just like not really taking me seriously, and not actually agreeing to the fact that I was high risk, even though I was sharing this history with them. They were like, you're fine. Like nothing about your situation necessitates a mammogram before 40. So like, sorry. And I was like, oh, like, can somebody please take me seriously? And then in the
Yeah.
span of like the last 18 months, I had 3 women that I know, also with all young children, one of whom is like a very close friend of mine, get diagnosed. And I saw one of them, she had the surgery on August 31st, and I went to go visit her the day after the surgery. And I was like, I can do this. I was her doula actually. So I was like, I know your pain tolerance and I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And so that set me on like, I just got really, I don't know, aggressive with my demands, if you will, and was like, I'm finding a doctor. And luckily, you know, to you all, I was able to like get in touch with Dr. Hampton, go get, did like the intake. There was a woman there who helped go through my family history, and again just like took what I was able to share with her on the
Do a risk
spot.
assessment. You did a risk
I
assessment.
did a risk assessment,
Yep.
and then she scheduled a mammogram for me, and so that was like October. I did the risk assessment, and I remember her actually coming back, like, you know, you're like ready to leave the doctor's office, and she hands me a piece of paper and says, here's your risk. I've calculated it to be 38%. And I was like, okay, like at that time I was like, oh, that's good. That's low. Like that's lower than I thought it would be, you know? And then I
You
think
expected it to be worse.
she could see that like I had this sigh of relief come on my face. And then she was like, well, anything above 20 is
Anything over
considered
20.
high risk. And I was like, oh. And then she's like, yeah, like you don't want to be at 50%. You definitely don't want to be at 100%, but like this is, you know, it's serious. And so I did the mammogram the day before Thanksgiving, which I also, you know, was my first mammogram, and I will say it was not bad. It was really not bad.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this is, I don't know why there's all this like drama about it. This is fine.
You must have had
Honestly.
a different machine than I've had. Never had one that was good.
See?
I
You
mean,
know
it's
what? From
not
year to
good, but I
year,
felt
even
like
from year to year, it's variable. Yeah.
yeah, and I felt like honestly the pain or it was harder to hold your breath for the 15 seconds than it was than the pain actually felt.
Well, Amanda, it's funny that you've been dismissed too, because like I think I've been dismissed recently because they told me that because mom's cancer was over 55.
Yes,
that makes me not. That's
exactly.
why we are not being told we're because
Correct.
like
This is
the FDA
wild. Having a
Yeah.
first degree relative puts you at like 2.5 times the risk. So
I know,
Yeah,
but
it-
they all say
it-
because it was post-menopause for her, it's like they don't take it.
I
It
get it. but
actually, it
this is
actually
still-
caused my menopause, I think,
Mhm.
but I think the one thing I want to clarify too is that I do not have any genetic mutations.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that was part of the
Right.
conversation. I think if I had had BRCA, it would be different, but I don't. And what we know is that the gene panel that we are currently testing on basically did not include Black bodies. So the genes that we're being tested for could be something totally different for Black women.
Yeah.
So that's why the risk is the risk that she's even telling you from that genetic panel, it may not be accurate because
Well,
we don't.
also, and sorry, just to be clear, also, that 38% number was only from me telling her that I know in our family had breast cancer, nothing
Yep.
else. So I then also did the genetic testing separately. And to your point, I said my mom doesn't have any of the genes. She's done this now 2 or 3 times. It's never come back. And she said that it could actually skip a generation, so you should still get tested. And I was like, what? Like,
I never heard that
makes
before.
sense. But I guess theoretically, Dr. Mo, you could get it from from maybe the other side of your family or
Now,
something.
that's true. Because it matters what's on mom's and dad's side. So skipping a generation is a myth. The genes are hereditary, and the way they are carried, the way these mutations are passed on, that they don't skip.
Okay.
But it's not just what's on mom's side. I have heard that a lot of times, like, oh, it doesn't matter what's on my dad's side. There's no breast cancer on my mom's side, but
Right.
it does matter on dad's, and it matters if you have a limited family history, because what if dad was an only child and didn't have
Totally.
siblings, and he didn't
Right.
get breast cancer, because most men who have a BRCA mutation don't get breast cancer.
Right.
But I heard you guys say something really important, which is that she's tested multiple times. Mom has tested multiple times, and people don't think about that. They think, okay, I did it once and I'm negative. But every 10 years or so, we end up learning that genes are longer than we thought. They're like a ladder. And back in 2014 or 2004 rather, when the BRCA genes came out, 95 was 95. It was Dr. King. 95, when the BRCA genes were discovered, we thought the gene was this long, and now 2004 it's this long, 2024 it's this long.
Right.
And so we keep learning there's more segments to the gene, and we learn what they mean. And so there's an opportunity for people to retest. We call it update testing.
Right.
Yeah,
I got
which is what
BRCA 1 and 2.
Yeah. Dr.
Yeah.
Hampton encouraged me to do that,
Exactly.
Even when I got tested with no genetic mutations, my mom didn't get tested because since I didn't have the gene, they said she was okay. But she probably should have been tested also because she had breast cancer.
And Medicare didn't cover it for her back then when they do now. So now she meets criteria where before she didn't. And this is really important for people watching, because there's a lot of Black women who weren't offered testing. We know that there's been disparity in the rates of people even being offered genetic testing. Because it used to be like $4,000. So people look at you and they assume, oh, you can't afford it. Or, let's just deal with what's in front of us. Or you're overwhelmed and you're trying to wrap your mind around chemo and surgery and everything else. And genetics is one more thing that, you don't trust your doctor, and you're not so sure you want them to have that information. So you didn't do it back then.
Right.
And when I had it the first time, it was $3,000.
Exactly.
And then when I had it, the last one was $300. So
Go ahead,
Well,
Mom.
even with the mammogram, I was like, I don't care if it's not covered. I will pay for this, because no one was letting me. I had to get 2 different referrals in order to have my insurance actually cover it.
Miss One, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, when I was diagnosed and I had surgery, I had a lumpectomy, and I begged them at the time to take both boobs. Ricki will tell you that.
she did. She said, cut all the boobs off in the room. Everybody.
And they wouldn't do it. And I live with a lumpectomy right now that I could have had reoccurrence. I am really very blessed because it didn't come back again. But they didn't have the knowledge then that they have now, because I think that if I had been discovered now, I probably would have had both of them taken off.
She had stage 0 though, and it took them a month to diagnose her. Because I remember it was Christmas time, mommy, and you were distraught the whole through Christmas because you were worried because they kept saying, well, it is cancer, it's not cancer, it is like it took them like literally a month to diagnose her at stage 0. But go ahead, man, keep going. So you had
So I did the mammogram. That was like the day before Thanksgiving. And then and Dr. Mo, I had seen you like right before this also. And I was like, I need the names of all the good doctors in the area, you know? And so I just went on this mission of like sort of stalking these doctors. And I was like,
Good.
I like need to find the right doctor for me. And randomly, I went to this, like a friend of mine who's the ultimate connector in the world, hosts these dinners every 6 months. And I never go to them because I have 3 children. And this year I was like, I'm going to this dinner. I'm getting out of my house. And the night before, she sent out all the LinkedIn profiles for the 40 women going to this dinner. And Dr. Lucy De La Cruz was one of the women. I was like, this is a sign from God. And so I was like, I went to this dinner and I was like talking to a friend, just like eyeing, like, I didn't really know what she looked like. You know, I like see the internet picture, but I'm like, is that her? Is that her? You know, like waiting for her to come in. And then she came in and I was like, you don't know me, but you're gonna chop off my boobs.
And you're naked in a hot sack. Like,
Yeah, I was
Wow,
like,
that's
here
it.
we go. And she corrected me. She's like, I'm not chopping off your boobs. Like, I will remove your breast tissue. And I was like,
Right.
okay, whatever the language is, but like, I need you to do this surgery for me. And she like calculated my risk on the spot and then was like, come see me this week, and got me an appointment in her clinic. And that was December 19th. And I remember her sort of like, she sent in another doctor maybe to sort of assess like, how serious is this woman, you know, like whatever. So they were sort of like, what's your timeline, you know? And I was like, I mean, you tell me what the timeline is. Like, I'm following your schedule here. And so they were like, how about the spring? And in December, the spring seemed really far away. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Pencil me in for the spring, whenever the spring is. And then we go through the holidays and I went to go see her one more time, like right after the MLK weekend. And she was like angry with me that I hadn't already gotten my MRI. She was like, come on, like we're doing this. You
Yeah,
need to
right.
get this MRI first. And I was like, well, they told me I couldn't get the MRI until the end of the month. And she's like, okay, I'm making a phone call. And the next day her office called and said, can you come for an MRI at 3:30 today? And I was like,
Please.
yeah, I'll be there. And so I like moved everything around, went to go do the MRI. And so I had gotten basically the like green light by mid-January. I met with the plastic surgeon and they called me in the beginning of February they called me on like Monday and said, can you, like, we have you scheduled for next Monday. And I was like, okay, like for 2 days, I was like rallying to have this surgery in another week. And that was scary. Like I like was freaking out, going through all the emotions that I hadn't really processed yet.
Stop for 1 minute. Tell them what the MRI said, what the MRI found.
Really real, didn't it? Whew.
Oh, so real. But so on the MRI, they saw 2 lumps. And they were like very likely benign, but we do see lumps. And so we are going to escalate you to go get an ultrasound next. And so actually that was like one of the scariest moments in this journey was when they send you to the ultrasound. So you're sitting in this like room of 10, I don't know, there were 8 other women in the room. no one's talking to each other because everyone's there for like different reasons, but you don't really know why other people are sitting in the room, but you like you don't know yourself what's going on. And so you don't want to like start another conversation. So everyone's awkwardly flipping through magazines about how to bake cupcakes, you know? And I'm like, but like you don't really want to talk to the other people. And then I feel like they forgot about me. And so I'm like, hello, like, can somebody like what's going on? And I don't know, it was like then I had the ultrasound and it was an hour. Like my boobs not big and like they just kept feeling around, and finally I was like, can we like get my husband back here or something? And then they're
Wrap it
like,
up.
let me like bring in the radiologist. And so then somebody else comes in and they're like, sorry, we can see that there are other lumps now. And we again think that they're like what we see on the MRI, we can confirm, but we can also see other lumps. They're probably cysts, they're probably benign, but in a normal situation, we would say we should do a biopsy, but because you have already said you want to go forward with the double mastectomy, I need to confirm with the surgeon whether or not she wants to do some sort of localized, basically they would like dye it to make sure that they got it in the surgery, or if it was within the margins that she felt comfortable that she would already get. And so that, you know, took whatever extra time in the ultrasound room that day. But ultimately, I was able to just go forward with the mastectomy, and it was all like within the margins of what would be taken out.
Good, good. But it's
So
scary though,
I
you
started
know?
with calcium deposits.
Mhm.
That so my first mammogram, I had calcium deposits, which I ended up having surgically removed right after my first mammogram. So that was 12 years before I had breast cancer, like 15 years before I had breast cancer. So she was I think she was sort of on that trajectory, which is pretty crazy, right?
You would at least been on the 6 month, come back in 6 months. Oh, it looks like nothing, but let's check it again in 6 months. And so for a whole year and a half, you would have been in this cycle of repeat
Nervous.
scans that your insurance didn't sort of cover, but not really. So you'd have to pay like a high deductible potentially, and then you'd have to just kind of keep getting follow up and follow. And it drives women nuts. And
And make
this
us
is the
all
reason,
worried, keep us all
right?
worried.
And this is kind of the reason why women don't always go back for their mammos. It's not so much the fear of it as much as it is the fact that they're still paying on last year's MRI. They're paying on last year's ultrasound. Like I have dense breasts. I know they're gonna call me back, and I didn't pay off the last one, and I had to wait 2 weeks for my results, and you know all
Right.
this stress and all this anxiety. I'll do it later. I'll get to it later, and that's kind of what happens, you know, because once you do it, you're like, oh, this wasn't that bad, but it's all the stuff that happens afterwards.
Right.
And we'll
Right.
never know
Yeah, I
what
feel like
would have happened had you waited till 40. Like we'll never
This is
know
true.
what would
This
have
is
happened
true,
had
and thank
what would,
God for that.
would things have looked like? What would your skin like? You know what I mean? Like, would you even have been invested in like all the things? You know, what's
totally.
funny too about your timing too, because you should go back to your story. Was like you were also factoring in spring break. I have 3
know.
kids, like all the things. Like it was like, how am I
That's
going to
amazing.
make this work into my life?
And also like, when can I stay home with you for a week, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
like, which is also
Right.
So how did we get to the history though? Because I
Yeah.
do want to talk about that a little bit. We're
Yeah.
talking about having
Yeah.
these conversations, and what do you do when you don't know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, mommy, this is where you come in. So I'll just preface it by saying that, you know, she had breast cancer. And but we didn't realize that her aunt had breast cancer until I was sick. And I'm not sure what jogged her memory, but you talk, mommy. So what's our history? What's her story?
Well, I shouldn't say I didn't know Ricki, but I may have known and not really paid a lot of attention to it because it was such a long time ago. My Aunt Louise was much older than my mother. And I honestly maybe knew, maybe I didn't, but I just thought she had died because she got sick and died right away. She was not in a long-term sickness at all. And
How old were you when she died?
oh, I probably was 12, 10, 11, 12 in that range, somewhere in there. And she was she was a good 12 years older than my mother. because my mother and my Aunt Louise had the same mother, but had different fathers. And so that's why there also was one reason, I guess, I just never really paid a lot of attention to it.
Well, I'm sure they didn't talk about it back then. Did they
No,
talk
they
about it?
didn't. No, they didn't talk about it. But my Aunt Louise was really almost like took care of my mother in a sense. She was so much older than Mama that she was like her little sister. Mama got married at her house, and she kind of took care of her and me when I came. I remember her as a, I have pictures or had pictures of her, but I just thought she got sick from something, and I guess I was too young to really question what she died from. And so when you told me that, it made sense but it happened fast. I do remember that. I was old enough to remember that she was not sick any lengthy time. It was a matter of a month and a half or something. So maybe she knew and just got sick at the very end. I have no idea of answering that kind of question. But the only other person is my mother's sister. My grandmother had cancer too, but her cancer was ovarian cancer. She was not breast cancer, but she had cancer. She had ovarian cancer.
So wait a minute. So now we find out you had not only breast cancer, right? First degree, second degree relative, but a family history of ovarian cancer as well.
Right.
No mutation, and doctors telling you two, the third generation here, that you don't meet criteria for genetic testing and that you're not high risk.
Yeah.
Isn't this interesting and sad?
Right. Haley too has been trying to get a mammogram to no avail either. So
Yeah,
Well,
I
just
know.
goes to
I'm
show
in the
you.
process myself, but I just did wisdom study, which everyone should do if you are looking for a free genetic test, ages 30 to 74. Really, really easy. But they're one of the people that also said, like, because they've now seen a bunch of people like me who are people who have a family HERstory, but it's your mom had it again after menopause. So they're now making this new group and studying women like me who are, I forget the language, but it's like not fully high risk, but there's like, they're creating a space for women that are me because they're seeing it more and more because again, we're just looking for the trends here and trying to figure out why this disease exists and like why it is attacking young women under 35 at the rate that it is. And so it's fun to be a part of the research and like where people are considering the Amandas and Haleys of the world who like, yes, we have a strong family HERstory, we have no genes, like what do we do, right? Like how do we act on this if people are telling us no, no. So I'm intrigued to see what this research comes to and how we support this community, what it looks like, if that's, a screening every year, starting at 35, like whatever that looks like. But it's fun to be a part of, but also alarming that like I'm a part of it and I have to like act on it all the time, and that's why it's cool to see Amanda, you who've like have done something about this and like is proactive about it. And like now like again, I'll do it too. Like I thought about maybe cutting my boobs off someday after being in this work, but like didn't take that thought seriously because I obviously, well, not obviously, but I haven't had kids yet. And so like, it's always been like, I'll think about that after kids. But now it's like, oh, you did it, like, and your boobs look great. Like, I'll do it too, and like, I don't think that I would have made that choice so easily or would be so fervent in that choice now had you not done it now,
Yeah, I think I really applaud the wisdom study, that Dr. Laura Esserman, and we'll put the link in the comments, but it's really for healthy women and they've really gone out of their way to address the needs of Black women. And we've talked to her a lot about, well, you're missing the Black women because it was women over 40. So now they've lowered the age to 30 and they are looking at different variants, different things for Black women. And so I think we'll be able to tell a different story soon because right now we don't really have one, and I was saying to my mom before we started though, it was really my mom's Aunt Thelma, who's on the other side of the family, her dad's side of the family, that remembered that Aunt Louise had breast cancer. Right. And she called me out of the blue one day and said, Ricki, I saw you, some cousin or something showed her something that made her know what I was doing for work and about touch. And so she called me. I think she was maybe 100 when she called me. I don't know, she lived to about 102, right, mommy? But she was about 100. She's like, you know, Ricki, I saw you talking about breast cancer. Well, you know, your Aunt Louise had breast cancer. And that's when we kind of put it all together. But
Wow.
Well, Grandma, earlier you even said too, your thought was like, I was too young to even ask, right? And it's just like this moment of like, is that a thing? Should we be too young to ask our family about these things? Like, we
yeah,
have to change that narrative. And I think that we've done that in our household, but like, we have to continue to
Oh my
promote that.
God.
There is no like too
Belle
young.
told
Yeah.
everyone in her first grade class that mommy got new boobs because she was afraid of breast cancer, you know?
I know. Well,
Yeah.
remember the day though that Belle, you know, Belle and I were in the shower. This was when she was 5, maybe. And she wasn't quite 5. She was it was a month before her 5th birthday. We're in the shower and baby Heart was still a baby. She was still nursing. She's like, so Dovey, how come you don't have those things on your boobs that baby Heart sucks on? And
Wow.
so I had to explain why I didn't have nipples, you know, to her. And so that was kind of, and I spent an hour trying to explain breast cancer to her. I said, okay, we're not going to talk about it anymore. You know, she's not quite 5, but then, you know, a year and a half later, her mom goes through it, and then thank God her mom has nipples. So
Yeah.
What do I do?
The other day actually had to correct her because she was talking about an old neighbor of ours who had actually died of prostate cancer, but she like doesn't know about other types of cancer. She only knows about breast cancer. So she was like, Mr. Maurice died of breast cancer. And I was like, no, there are actually a lot of other cancers, you know, but like in her brain, she's like, all it is breast cancer.
Yeah.
Thank God for that.
Uh,
Mo, I think the other thing that it was very fascinating for me anyway, the conversation, but also when Ricki asked me about this, I started thinking about all the people in the family and the reasons they have died. And
Hmm.
very interesting for me that I did that, going back and look at it, because everybody else except those that we've talked about have died from heart problems, not any cancers. And on my father's side, they were all heart problems and diabetes. And I just
But he had cancer. Your dad had cancer. He had
I meant to say he's the only one.
esophageal. Yeah.
He is the only one. His brothers, his father, all died from heart problems, but he is the only one that had cancer.
Which is why we'll put the link in the chat, but we have our like HERstory worksheet, which goes into like deeper than breast. We go into like anything that could be a risk in Black families. And yeah, it goes diabetes, hypertension, ovarian, cervical. This is a worksheet also approved by Dr. Mo. So definitely take it to your doctor. But also it opens a conversation for all of these things that happen in our families. We can talk about them. They present risk for other things. It also dives into the age at which people got their cancers, because again, that's an important fact. And so like a good way to start the conversation if you're not yet already having it in your household, because I would say that like even as a family, like I feel like we're pretty open about the things we talk about, but even like mom getting sick, that was hard to talk. Like it's still hard when it happens, right? Even if you are open, as like ridiculous as we are most times, it's still like these are alarming things to talk about, especially when you are not wanting to show weakness for various reasons and not wanting to show all the things that come with being a mom, right? And so I think that
and you also like secretly, I don't know, selfishly like want it to be that no, that was a fluke, or like she's like the exception. She's like, yeah, horrible situation for her, but like never gonna happen to me, right? Like you like want to isolate the situations, even if like there is a connection, like unless it's really obvious, it's also easy to just be like, oh, it happened to her and just her, you know?
Yeah. Well, you guys were 19 and 26 when I got sick. And Haley was, you know, a sophomore in college at Dartmouth, and Amanda was working in the Obama White House. And so, you know, they were pretty much, I didn't want them to feel the burden of my illness, you know, with me, but they kind of insisted on it, you know, but I think
Well,
that
that's the thing, right? Like talking to your kids about it, no matter the age. I mean, that's a conversation in and of itself, because so many people are afraid to be a burden and not realizing that passing on that generational knowledge and that experience and watching you go through it and overcome it is what empowers their kids to be able to overcome and do tough things in their lives too, you know?
Yeah. Well, my dad had colon cancer, and his mom had leukemia. So we also had that on the other side of the family. And I know there've been a couple, well, we know colon can be connected to breast. We haven't really figured that out yet, but I know there's something there. But even when my dad got sick, I don't know whether he ever had a colonoscopy. He died at 73, which was pretty young, but we never talked about that. You know what I mean? I don't know, like, to me, you shouldn't die of colon cancer, right? You can prevent colon cancer. That's a preventable one. So when people say they have colon cancer, it's scary to me, like you're in control of that to a large degree, right? So did my dad just we never talked about it until he was sick. And I think even he sort of had a bout with it, had his colon taken out. And then 2 years later, it came back with a vengeance. He died in 3 months. And he didn't tell us until we found out on a Friday he had colon cancer. He died on Monday. It was really fast because he didn't want to be a burden. Could he have done a clinical trial? Could he have done chemo with the surgery? He probably had many more choices of treatment than what he took. He just took the surgery and kept on going because he didn't want to be a burden. But again, an example of how Black families don't talk about it. You know, and clearly I didn't know anything that I know now about cancer, you know, but I mean, he didn't share enough to even for us to get involved in the conversation. And I think that's what happens with Black families, right? That could he have lived longer? I don't know. I mean,
I'm really into the language in reach over outreach right now. It's like I feel like there's something to be said about just like starting in your family, in your community, in your church, where I go to dance, you know, like I bring bags when I go to dance now, because like why wouldn't I start with these young Black women I see at dance every week, you know? And so it's like, how can we do that more? Because I've seen women start to do better, and maybe it's because like I'm working breast cancer, so it's women everywhere. But I still don't see it with like the men in my life, you know, and like so I think we really have to continue to push this envelope.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I also feel though, like, I don't know, I didn't understand maybe the extent or the severity of the burden that I guess to me, the worst thing people would say, what do you fear, Ricki? I don't fear anything now. Once you've had cancer, I'm fearless. Okay. I'll go out in that paddleboard in that water at 6 a.m. by myself. No one's out there but me, and I have no fear. My only fear has ever been my children getting breast cancer. If you say, what is your worst fear? It's my children getting breast cancer, because I feel like I'm responsible for that. So I didn't realize the burden, the emotional burden that had on all of us until Amanda got freed of it.
Mm.
Like, whoa, it's like this cloud was taken off of our heads because she's free of it. And now Haley can do it too. You know what I mean? So
You can't quantify that, right? It's just like you can't, it's like hard to know, because at first there's like, Amanda, you were told that you were doing something drastic. It felt like this really big move, this drastic thing. And it's like, no, like on the other side of it, it's like that worry, that feeling, whatever you can't, because it just is not quantifiable. It's hard to like put into words, but like it's so cool. But Grandma, I have a question for you, given what my mom just said. Like, did you feel bad when she got sick?
Yes,
And you right? I wonder how that felt for you.
I did. And I felt like I was the cause.
Even though you weren't, we know that, but like, yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
can.
you know, that's because you don't, I don't know, I'm like anything that happens to my kids and even to you guys. And I think, well, you know, what could I have done differently? Is it something that I missed? Something that I could have done that I didn't do? Something I should have known about and didn't tell you? You go through all those kinds, and I thought about that with Amanda. I probably sweat out more as much as she did initially when they first told me what she was going to do and what its stakes were, because I just thought, it all started with me at some point. And
But
so,
it didn't.
But
Yeah,
it
but it
started,
didn't.
didn't it?
Yeah.
Started with
And
And
it
Amanda.
didn't.
honestly, I
So
feel like it was like the most empowering thing. So like
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel a very different like emotion tied to doing it. Like I feel not at all a like I don't know, like I definitely feel a relief that I honestly also didn't know how deep it was until like being on this side of it. Like, oh, I don't like, I don't know. I think being a mom also, you're just like, not even so much like, I don't want them to deal with it, but I'm like, I want to be here with them and I don't want to miss anything. And so, like, if I have the ability to control one aspect of like securing my lifetime with them, then like, I'm definitely going to do it because I want to be there with them.
So
And
what I hear
for those
is,
of you who don't know my sister too, this is a big deal. Like, just like she used to ask to meet the pilot before getting on planes, just to make sure that like she could see the person in control of her life because she like is in control, you know? And like this is a really, really big deal, the fact that you took your control to this extent, you know.
so what
Yeah.
I hear is generational guilt has turned to generational relief, right?
Yeah.
And
Like you feel some
empowerment, like
measure.
it like feels so good to be able to actually like make decisions based on what you know, and like be in control of that even.
So I have a question. At what age do we start teaching the girls how to do self breast exams?
Puberty.
I know. I feel like I'm like on what right now, but yeah, I'm like
Mhm.
I'm pro as soon what age should they do it, Mo?
You know what I say? As soon as they start showering and learning how to soap up, right? Teach them
Yeah.
about what breast buds are and how it feels kind of rubbery back there and that it changes over time. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the biggest things we can do is to teach that your
yeah,
normal changes and that
Yeah.
your breasts are lumpy. And we always say, oh, check for lumps. Feel for normal because if lumps are your normal, then you'll feel better about knowing what normal feels like instead of feeling afraid. But I
Yeah.
feel like so much of even the wellness, the self-exams is fear-based. Oh, feel a lump and let somebody know. It's like, no, no, learn your normal so that if you do feel something that's different than your normal, then
exactly.
you'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle Benjamin, our blessed, she has metastatic TNBC. She got at 36 and she has a 7-year-old. Maybe she's 7 or 8, and she has her checking her buttons. She calls it, I'm checking my buttons.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just because, Michelle talks about having her daughter's probably gonna have to start getting mammograms at age 25. And so she's already planting the seed, check your buttons, so I think there's different ways you can do it. So it's not scary. You know what I mean? And I think even when you explain it to Belle and Leigh and Hart, it's like, it's not scary. It's a thing that you can do to take control of your health. Like
Yeah.
many things, to
So,
me, it's, as soon as you have like the second, not even waiting for the sex conversation, knowing your body,
but
Yeah.
also it just helps them have a comfort level with knowing what any changes in their bodies when they see a change. Little kids see changes and they don't know what it is. They don't know whether it's good or whether it's bad. But when you've taught them that there are going to be changes to your body, and when you feel a change, we need to talk about it.
That's
Not
actually
teach you.
Go
You
I
ahead,
know,
was
man.
gonna say, I think that that's one of the things also like on this end of having done the prophylactic mastectomy, like my self-care ritual is now really different. And so I've been in groups where they say like you should still do the self exams like with your children, not necessarily because you need to, but just because you should teach your children to do them, right? So like I
yeah.
have to like make sure that that's part of my routine, even though it's not necessarily needs to be part of my routine, you know?
But if it's routine, when something different happens and they have easy to come and talk about it and they will recognize it. And I just think it's very healthy.
Yeah.
I think too, like we had so many like bathtub songs, right? Like how do we incorporate these moments into the rituals that we have growing up? Because I feel like
Love that. I can hear
You know
a
what I mean?
check your buttons
Right?
bathtub song. Yeah.
Right?
We had a
Like,
lot of bathtub songs. We had a lot of bathtub
and
parties.
so it's like, what if this language was a part of those moments too? And how can we create that? You know, I think is really cool and innovative and fun because it's like we culturally already do these things. And so how do we just combine breast health in there and vaginal health and all these things that are really, really important to talk about while your body again is changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my piece in the morning when they were little was to take a bubble bath every morning. So literally at 5:30 in the morning, I would be in the tub with bubbles. And eventually, and I would have to get out by 6:30 to get ready for work and school and everything. But eventually we were all in the tub like every morning. And that was like a thing. So it's like, can I please just have a bath for like, can I have 20 minutes by myself?
Nope.
And then they
Yeah,
would both-
I shower with Amanda until she kicked me out. Like I very much shower with Amanda. Like it's like just because like that was again, these are routine things. It's like bodies are weird and normal and great, and that's what they are. So let's just like celebrate that. But I think we did a really good job of celebrating bodies in our family. I'm really excited about the amount of just like body positivity that we came out of, especially after being Black girls in white schools and like all of that and dance and modeling the things that like could lead to very different understandings of our body. Um, with that said, like we could have gone a step deeper, and I know now that like Amanda and I will, and then our kids will, and we'll just continue to like go get a little bit better every year, I mean every generation.
Yeah, that and I mean, I also feel like the science and Mo, you were saying this earlier of just like even the care has changed dramatically. Like I also want to give credit to the tremendous advances that are being made so that also like for our kids, it's just like a very different scenario than it was even for us. And like even, I mean, I feel like even in the span of the last 6 months, the age of the mammogram has changed, you know, like it's like there is so much progress being made. Or like I did a recording one time for my breast surgeon to go take to the, I guess, like a conference of international breast surgeons to talk about the modern mastectomy of just being able to like preserve your nipple, do the nerve resensation, and
Yep.
you know how
Yep.
it's like I had 2 drains, my mom had a lot more than that. And just like, yeah, there's new like improvements and a ton of people doing that incredible work every day that hopefully will also keep the
Wow.
progress happening.
Amanda, talk about your nipples and your resensation. We didn't talk about that at all. What in your surgery?
I kept all this talk about like, oh, my mom's like, you never have to wear a bra again. And I'm like, I do have to wear a bra because my nipples are hard all the time. So I do have to wear a bra or
You
something.
do. Okay, I didn't know that. Did your nipples stay hard? Now the ones you kept
Yeah,
them.
I think that they are not, I don't think that it's like all the time, but yeah, they're definitely hard, like not like just at a random moment, you know?
I love this for you.
So yeah, so I'm
And
like,
how's the sensation? It's diminished, but there.
I feel like it's coming back. So like I still don't really have sensation like below my nipple. But like everything above, I never, I've always felt sort of above, and it's like getting closer and closer to the nipple. And then with my nipple, I'm like, I can feel when I'm moving my nipple around. I can't so much feel when like I can feel pressure, I guess, but I don't feel like positive or negative association yet, but I can definitely feel like I mean, it feels different today than it did a month ago, even. And yeah, the doctor said that it could take, 6 months to a year, basically. So we'll see. I don't know. But that was like the one thing that they said insurance might not cover was the resensation, because I guess it's still experimental and like not everyone is doing it yet. And so they were like, worst case scenario, you have to pay for that if you want to do it. But yeah, I mean, sort of like, let me report back in a year from now. But I don't know. As like sometimes I think about what would have happened if I didn't have that option, or like even the option to keep my nipple. And I do, for as like vain as it sounds, like I'm not sure I would have like run to the surgery in the way that I did if it wasn't like
Fair.
keep
Yeah.
my nipple, get nerve resensation, and do it in one surgery. So I did like direct to implant. And I think if it had been a different scenario, I might have I would have thought about it differently.
No, that's definitely fair. And I think that surgery alone has really empowered more previvors to sort of take control, because, it's a different thing when you have to lose your nipples. But if your scars can be underneath, you keep your skin, keep your nipples, and you feel as whole as you can feel after this, there's some
Totally.
added benefit, and it's not all loss.
Totally. I
And your
also,
scars are underneath. We didn't even talk about your scars, so you don't really
yeah,
have visible
Yeah.
scars,
Yep.
which is
You don't
also
see 'em.
really good.
yeah, my scars are underneath. And I was surprised by that because I've nursed 3 children, but he was like, your nipples are still looking up. So
There you
we
go.
don't have to do a lift. And I was like, I'll take it. But also I was wondering like, hey, my drain holes are in a funny like they're not even on either side of my body. And so I was like, what's this about? And he was like, that's just where I'll go in and do the liposuction later. I was like, cool. Thanks for looking out for me. Thanks for, being so thoughtful about that.
Hmm. Awesome. Wow. Any
Yeah.
final thoughts? Any closing thoughts on this her story, and the generations and the learning of family history? I mean, are you guys, I guess you are documenting this just through the video and through the show even, and through your lives, but for
Yeah.
other families who are watching who maybe aren't documenting or as forthcoming, how do people have these conversations? Let's start generationally. Let's talk to Mama Wilma first. What do you say to women your generation who are like, I'm not telling my family history, that's my business?
Well, you're right. And I can think of a couple of folks I know that would just never even think about having the conversation. But you can't be the mother of Ricki and Amanda and Haley as grandchildren and not know that you have to be open and talk about everything. They've taught me a lot. And I guess life's work has taught me that the more open you are, the better the information is that you receive, and you make better decisions when you have all the information, if not all, but at least you have some choice about information that you receive. And I think that's very valuable, which leads me to say, how often do doctors advise their patients to have this kind of conversation with their patients and their
Ooh.
families?
That's a good question. And the answer is not often enough. And it's probably as often as we don't take a full family history. We let our medical assistants and nurses put the stuff in the computer, and we don't always look at it. I think the breast surgeons do more and more, and those of us who run high risk programs. But, a lot of primary care, a lot of gynecologist people are focused on the thing that's in front of them. Your visit here today is for this.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right. I just wondered how often do doctors say to the patient, this ought to be a family conversation?
Yeah. I
And
always ask, who matters to you? Who should be in on this
also,
conversation? And COVID taught me that.
but I also think it helps young people deal with, if they should by any chance have some kind of abnormality or become ill about something, they have a lot more to pull on and resources when family has talked about illnesses and how they come about and what is a part of it.
Very true.
Yeah. Wilma, how old are you?
91, guys.
Fabulous. 91 and fabulous.
And let me just say to you that all the women on my father's side have been at least 101. One was 102. So they've been.
You got goals, Grandma.
Huh?
You got goals.
That's
Right.
And she's keeping us all in line every day. She is doing her job every day. So she keeps us.
You owe me some recipes, by the way.
I've got it. I got it.
I hope it's not fried chicken.
Oh,
I
no,
know.
no.
That was, she was a baker. She was a baker, but no, I just encourage everybody to sit down with your people, and they may not want to talk about it. You know, the worksheet, the HERstory worksheet is really helpful to help you guide the conversation, but you got to have these conversations. And it boggles my mind. You know, I talk about this family I met in last summer at the SHARE conference, where the 38-year-old daughter had triple negative breast cancer, stage 3. Both her mom and her mom's sister had triple negative breast cancer in the last 2 years, and none of them knew it until the daughter got sick. And
Wow.
that's just crazy. And
Great.
could they have helped her? Could they have helped each other deal with
Yeah.
this madness? And it's insane when I see families not talking. So please talk to your families, talk to everybody. And you know, it may not be easy, but you need it. I mean, I think, you know, I think Bella and Hart will have a whole nother perspective, and Haley's kids when she has them, on illness and how to deal with stuff, right? Because it's all out there.
And they
Very,
know
very
how
true.
to choose resources. They know what resources are available to them.
They know who to call, right? Or how to do it, or they have another experience to share about it, you know?
Right.
Because frankly, they're going to be at risk too, because we don't know about you guys. So they're going to have to deal with the risk even when they get boobs. So, but you know, my goal is that we got about 10 years to get rid of breast cancer. So, you know, that's what I say every day, is that's what
Work cut out
all this
for us.
work.
And I
That's
just
what
want to add that as everyone's out there assessing their risks, to think about all the things, right? Your family shared health history or HERstory, your genetics. I think we're moving to a place where the environment and epigenetics is going to play a huge role into things as well. So just like really taking like if anything after this, like go assess your risk and think about all the things that could be contributing to that.
And know all the options. Like, I think also, like, talk to as many doctors as you need to, like, do your own
Stalk your
research.
doctors.
Stalk your doctors. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to say it.
That's right.
No, like, build a health team for you that you trust in, and that will share all of the options. Cause that was a thing, you know, for me, like, they were like, these are your 3 options. You can do regular testing and we will catch it early. You can start tamoxifen, which my doctor actually suggested not to do because I'm 38. And then she was like, or you could get a double mastectomy. And these are, you know, the risk odds with each of, like, how the math changes with each of these scenarios. So, like, what do you want to do? And it was great to have a doctor to be able to, like, walk me through all of that and what it would mean if I just did tamoxifen versus that was like a 50% risk decrease versus mastectomy, which was the 90% decrease. And so you can evaluate it. You can, you know, assess that on your own, but just knowing that there are options out there for you, I find to be quite empowering.
On that note, challenge your doctors too to go. I mean, obviously, if you're a young Black woman, to go beyond what your insurance is talking about, right? Like just actual options,
Just
not
add
just
one
what
thing.
is available.
Can I just
Yeah.
add one thing? When your doctor says, let's wait on that, put that aside, we'll come back to that later. Don't take that as a way out.
Right.
I hear that. They've said it to me, and I hear folks tell me, well, my doctor said we can wait on that. We'll talk about that later. Don't accept that, because anything can happen, and overnight. You just
Right.
know. But
Don't-
I've had that happen, and I can't accept that.
Look
Yeah.
at you, 91 and chilling.
the wait and see method does not work for us. And I think also know that, you know, probably 5 to 10% of people may have a genetic mutation, right? Or the data is kind of somewhere in there. So most people don't. And a lot of people will say, well, my mother didn't have breast cancer, so I'm okay. That is not the case. And
Right.
frankly, you know, if you have a family history and you're Black, you are at risk. If you have a family history of cancer and you're Black, you are at risk. So do something about it. You can take the information, and you may have to fight for it. Amanda did. I mean, she was pretty relentless in pursuing, and we'll help you do that. You know, we'll help you do that if you need tools, if you need words to say to your doctor, you know, reach out to us and we will try to help you have these conversations, and we'll help you have these conversations. So don't let no be an answer. And, you know, we never take no as an answer. It's always how.
It's true. And, you know, and one of the things I always tell my patients, you know, if doctor says, oh, it's probably just this, how can we be sure?
Right.
Right? Is there some test that we can do? And what should I look for at home? If they send you home and say, oh, everything's fine, it all checks out, what should I look for at home? And when do I get to see you again? When are we following up on this? So there's some things you can ask, even if everything checks out, because you want to know that it's okay, not just today, but a month from now, 6 months from now. So how do you know at home when the doctor's not there and not doing the exam? So asking those follow-up questions is actually a really important thing to do too, as a part of self-advocacy.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's what I think the take-home message is. I mean, you
Be a
heard it
girl
from,
boss.
that's it, you know, you're CEO of your own health and your own life, right?
Yeah. Be the girl boss. Be the CEO.
Dr. Mo, thank you for hanging out with our fam tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks for making me honorary. Let me hang out with the
I
cool
know.
kids.
I know.
This is good.
You're
I
in
like
the
this.
fam. You're in the
I
fam.
love it. Oh, love you guys so much. We hope it's been relatable, reliable, real. That's what we do every Wednesday night here on blackdoctor.org. And we're just grateful for the platform and the privilege.
Well,
Yep.
thank you for including me.
you.
I'm
Yeah.
so happy to have been a part of this. Thank you, guys.
Bless you, love. Bless you, love.
Mhm.
Right.
That's it.
Next week. Bless you, love. Love you, Mo. Love you
See
guys.
you.
You
Love
very
you.
Love you.
Bye, everybody.